Fellow auto detailers, welcome to the show that features interviews with today's most successful auto detailers. This is the Auto Detailing Podcast. Here's your host, Jimbo Balaam.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Auto Detailing Podcast. I just wanted to jump in for a quick intro before we get into this week's episode with Rob Schruefer of On the Spot Mobile Detailing. And Rob, in this episode, we talk a lot about the IDA again, and he answers a lot of great questions that they're not great because I even asked the question, but the topics that he brings up are great because they're actually they're answers to the questions that I get a lot of the time from you guys who reach out to me and say, hey, do you really think the IDA is worth it? Hey, do you really think I should join the IDA? Is it worth the money? And without me even asking those questions, Rob brings up a lot of the answers and a lot of really good, compelling arguments to and for the IDA. So we talk about that. We talk about Mobile Tech Expo 2017 in Florida in the end of January. And if my schedule can work out, I know I have one other thing the tail end of January in LA. So but again, I was going into this episode not expecting to really care that much. Not that I wouldn't care, but not expecting to want to go to Mobile Tech Expo as much as I honestly do want to go now for these seminars and training classes that the IDA is actually putting on. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Rob Schruefer, and I hope you get as excited about Mobile Tech Expo as I did. If you can get there, I would highly suggest you to get there. And if you're in Florida, consider yourself lucky enough to be close enough to it. For me, it's on the complete opposite side of the country. And if you are outside of the U.S., I know it's probably even more difficult to get down to Florida, but hopefully some of the seminars that the IDA is putting on at Mobile Tech will be recorded for us who can't make it there. So you'll see how I throw out the idea of some Facebook Lives to get some of this training for the rest of us. So hopefully they do something like that. So here we go. Hope you guys enjoy this one with Rob Schruefer and myself.
Yep.
All right, welcome to episode 264 of the Auto Detailing Podcast. This is Jimbo, your host, and today we have Rob Schruefer. Rob, I'm pretty sure I got that right because you've been on 3 times.
You did.
Okay, good. Because
Yeah.
I was thinking about it earlier. Like I think I got it down, but I'm not sure. And people butcher my last name all the time, so I meant to double check. But I'm glad I nailed it. And Rob's been on the show a couple different times. So if you want, I think this is your 3rd time, Rob.
I would think so. I think the first time was just about my detailing company, and then the last time was also about the IDA.
Totally. So if you want to hear Rob's story about how he has multiple trucks and a fixed location and is doing really, really good, you can just search Rob at autodetailingpodcast.com, and both his previous shows will pop up. Also, if you want to know more about the IDA, we're going to talk about it a lot today, but we went pretty in-depth last time, so you can also check that out as well. But, Rob, how are things going?
Good. It's getting cold here, so,
And are you still staying just as busy?
Yeah, we slow down a little bit. After Christmas, we're busy through the holidays. Everybody's kind of got people coming into town like any detailing company. We stay busy till about the middle of January, and that's when we really start slowing down.
Got it. And then when do you pick back up again?
March.
Oh, okay. Cool. So today, though, in March, that may be timely. What are the dates for Mobile Tech Expo?
Mobile Tech is the weekend of January 19th.
January. Okay. I thought it was January, and someone said today, March, that's when Mobile Tech was, and I was like, I thought it was in January. Okay. So January is Mobile Tech.
It starts on Thursday the 19th and goes through Saturday the 22nd.
Got it. And you are going to be there on behalf of the IDA, correct?
Yes.
Or the IDA is going to be...
puts on we put on several things for Mobile Tech, but it's also our annual board retreat. So the board of the IDA, that's the required meeting for us every year. We all get together and sit down and plan out the next year.
Awesome. So since the last time we talked, what's been going on with the IDA, what's currently going on with the IDA, and then maybe what are some cool things coming up?
Sure. So the past year has seen enormous growth with the IDA. A lot of people are starting to get on board. They're starting to see the value. At the end of this current year, we have 543 members, which is a 40% increase from last year.
Wow.
So we're growing significantly every year. We also started adding chapters. We picked up our first chapter in the UK this year. So we now have a chapter of UK detailers for the IDA that are meeting in the United Kingdom, and they're planning out their own events and seminars and stuff like that. You know, they're part of the IDA, but they get to focus on things that are important to them in another country. That's one of the advantages of the chapter system is, you know, the things that are going on here in America are not going to be the same things going on in China.
Right.
You know, so as we expand, we've got to take into consideration what the needs of other detailers are going to be to truly be the International Detailing Association.
That's incredible. And that's such a good point, because sometimes being in the States and even more micro than that, just in our own local community, you know, we can get so caught up in what's happening, you know, right next door and not really on this global scale. So I'm sure as these chapters start popping up, it'll only strengthen the association, because it gives us an opportunity to even learn more from each other and what people are doing in other parts of the world.
It makes the world smaller.
It does.
You know, just other things going on around the world that we may not even have any idea about, that, you know, a chapter may bring forward and say, hey guys, this is what we're doing in India. You should, you know, America should really look into it. And, you know, who knows where the next innovation is going to come from.
And is that something that you guys are looking for, more chapters to kind of pop up?
Yeah, I think that's something that we sort of focused on this year.
Okay.
You know, to be truly international, we need to be able to expand beyond the borders of North America. So as it grows, I think that's just a natural progression that, you know, as the trade organization gets bigger, you know, there's only so many detailers in America. So if we really want to, you know, be an international organization, this is just something we're going to have to deal with. And without chapters, it's difficult for people like, let's say in Australia, to feel included. You know, they're pretty much on the opposite side of the world, so they can't make meetings. They have trouble joining webinars and stuff like that. So the chapter system gives them the ability to conduct that sort of stuff internally in their own country.
Got it. And it's funny you brought up Australia too, because I was thinking, I'm surprised there's not a chapter down in Australia, New Zealand area yet. And maybe that's
we've been talking to them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so you know, there's several in the works around the world.
Awesome.
You know, it took a little bit to kind of get all the paperwork and the logistics of it done, but now that all that's out of the way, we already have kind of a template for what needs to be done. So if anybody who's listening to this is in a different country or on the other side of the world and wants to be more involved, contact us. There's now a way.
And how would they, just so, because we're on the subject, we're going to repeat it again later, but they would just contact the IDA directly?
Yep, the IDA's main office.
Okay.
It's the-ida.com, and, you know, all the contact information's there. And they just write in and say that, you know, what they're interested in doing, where they're at, and maybe we can put them together with some people, because there are some requirements, like, you know, there has to be a certain amount of people for a board. You know, like there are requirements that do take a little bit to kind of get going. So there may be other people interested, and we can put you together.
Got it. So with mobile tech and that being the IDA's kind of annual meeting, why mobile tech? And why not something like SEMA? Just curious.
Well, because we were a lot smaller when we decided that years ago. And SEMA is such a massive show. There's so much going on at SEMA. I enjoy mobile tech because it's a smaller venue. You get to actually interact and spend time with detailers. I've had friends who I know are at SEMA. I know we're in the same hall together, and I don't see them.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of show. It's so large that things sort of get lost.
Right. So, and I've never been to Mobile Tech myself, but I've heard over the past few years that it's really transformed into, or maybe not transformed, well, yes, transformed as in grown bigger, but also become more inclusive of like the detailing industry, whereas before it was a little bit heavy on the paintless dent repair. Is that accurate?
Yes, it was very heavy PDR, but I would think that as the IDA has sort of made their presence known and created programs specifically for detailers, it's grown into a much larger detail show. A lot of the detail suppliers that weren't there a few years ago are now coming out because more and more detailers are coming.
Got it. So what does the IDA have planned for Mobile Tech? Besides the annual meeting, what else goes on there?
Well, on the first day, so Thursday, if you've never been to Mobile Tech, Thursday is the education day. So we have a room for the entire day, and we put on just a slate of seminars. They go about an hour. I have a list of them. If you don't mind, I'll go down. So The first one up is Todd Helm. He's doing motorcycle detailing. He's doing a whole hour-long seminar on how to properly detail a motorcycle.
Wow. That's
something that in my business we do a lot of, and it's profitable. And a lot of people don't get into it because they don't know the finer aspects of it. But it is for anyone who doesn't do it, that's a good place to make some extra revenue.
Definitely.
Yep. So the next one is expanding your detail business services. It's about like profit centers, adding window tinting, adding alloy wheel repair, other things that you can add to your detailing business to make a little bit of extra money. For the single operator guys who, just want to learn some more skills where you can have a vehicle, you can offer all these other services and make, raise your ticket price.
Definitely.
Yeah. The next one is interior. Oh, were you going to ask something?
No, I have a couple thoughts of just like, this is incredible, but I'm going to refrain till the end because I don't want to interrupt the list.
We'll go to the end and then we'll go through. Right. Okay. So interior packages and add-ons, things that you can, fabric protector, dyeing carpets. This is another sort of profit center thing, but more focused on interiors, just how to raise that ticket. Your average ticket price determines how much money you can make. So the more you can get out of each customer, the better off you'll be. There's the next session done by Jason Rose is headlight restoration, how to make it fast, how to make it effective, and to turn a profit in it. Anybody who doesn't do headlight restoration with your details, you're missing out. You can get $50, $75 per car extra for something that takes 30 minutes to do it properly.
Yep. Love that one.
Yep. The next one, learning from our mistakes. It's about mistakes that other detailing companies have made that somebody new in the game, you don't have to make those mistakes. If someone explains to you what they did, how they messed it up, that's a lot of owning your own business is making mistakes. And if you can find a way to learn from those mistakes without actually making the mistakes, you're better off than where most people are going to be.
Definitely. Especially if you could learn from people who have already been there and made that mistake, and then they could teach you it. Yeah.
Yep, they just explain the mistake that they've made, and
exactly.
And this is how I solved the problem. This is how I've set myself up to not do it again. That's a huge leap forward to somebody just starting out in the industry.
Yep, huge.
This is another one that sort of goes back to chapters. Two of the most traveled people I know, Tom Palencia from Simon Eyes and Jason Rose from Rupus now, who travel the world training. This one is called Global Detailing Trends. So it's about what the rest of the world is doing in detailing, innovations, things they do differently from us. I know Jason has explained to me how some people some countries, they only use rotary. In certain parts of the world, they don't even use DAs. They just use rotary buffers, which is crazy to me. But that's just, everyone has their way. So it's crazy when you talk to these guys, just how different detailing can be in different parts of the world.
Yeah, incredible.
The next one is expanding your business by adding marine and RV detailing services. So this sort of ties into the motorcycle one. That it's a whole new section of detailing. We again here we do a lot of RVs and we do a lot of boats. It's just an extra way to make more money if you're limiting yourself to only vehicles because you've never expanded into those areas. This is a good stepping stone to find out what kind of equipment you're going to need, what kind of training you should get prior, where you should get specialized chemicals for let's say a gel coat instead of a clear coat. They're similar, but they're different. They're different products. They're, different techniques. So, you have to know those sort of things if you want to expand into that area.
Love that.
The next one after that sort of ties into it. It's called mold and mildew mitigation in boats and marine applications. So anyone who's ever detailed boats knows how much of a problem mold can be on a boat, in the cabin, on the vinyl seats. Getting that off of seats can be extremely difficult. And if you can do it properly, the customer may not even care what the rest of that boat looks like. Exactly. If you've got all their white vinyl seats looking perfect again, they sort of overlook some of the other stuff because they're so happy with those seats. Because they can just look terrible. Those black mold mildew spots on white vinyl seats, it just looks permanently dirty.
And it may be a good way to, if you can nail that down, and the gel coat is oxidized beyond belief, it may be a good, if you know how to at least dial in the interior, you may be able to hone your skills later for the severely oxidized exterior.
Yeah, learning boats and RVs luckily are kind of similar. They're painted and sort of coated in the same way. So if you get boat and RV detailing down, they sort of work well together. So, once you've got one, you are well on your way to the other.
Yep.
And then the last one is the one I'm presenting. It's called What Now? Taking Your Business to the Next Level. So it's just about how to get over that I'm a 1 to 2 man operation. I do all the detailing myself. How do I get myself past that? How do I stop being the technician and start being the business owner? In my business, I don't detail. That's not my job. So, you have to get yourself out of that mindset and to the next level if you ever really want to truly grow and expand beyond you doing the work every day and coming home with a hurt back and being exhausted. You got to get past that point to truly make it.
That's
our slate of seminars on Education Day. I didn't know if you had any comments or any clarifications or anything like that on any of that.
I hope all those different seminars are running at different times because I could see
they are.
Okay, good. Because
it's all one room.
Nice, yep. Because I can see if people are going to mobile tech, and you own a detailing business, you got to go to every single one of those because like I said, I could comment on every single one of them and I tried to refrain, but I just couldn't because everything you talked about was additional profit centers, RV boat detailing, every single one that you listed off. I was like, wow, yeah, that'd be very valuable. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Oh my gosh, yeah, I want to go to that. So by the way, if I get to mobile tech, I'm going to be at all those seminars. But
I've been doing this for 15 years, and I try not to miss them. You never know what you're going to pick up, even if it's just one thing, little piece of information that I didn't know prior that I take home and implement. That could make all the difference to me.
Yeah, because even take the headlight restoration. If you're a guy out there and you don't currently offer or don't know how to do headlight restoration, and you make it to Mobile Tech, say it costs you $1,000 to go to Mobile Tech, and all, it probably won't, but all included, say it costs you $1,000, but you're getting $50 to $75 a pop for each headlight. I mean, how long does it
back so fast?
Yeah.
Yes, so fast.
You make your initial, and that's just one aspect of it, so that's, I love that the IDA is putting these things on, because I think it is maybe not adds credibility to the IDA, but it makes the argument more compelling to become a member of the IDA when it's like, wow, they are looking out for me too. And so, that they're looking out for me, I want to look out for them. And so these seminars just seem like they are invaluable. And I would just highly suggest guys try to get there and go to them.
Yeah. It's also in Florida in January. So if you live in the northern part of the United States, it's kind of a reason to wear shorts in January. So, that's one of the reasons I like it also.
True.
It's just a way.
A nice little break.
Just a way to get out.
A way to get out. That's true. As I sit here on a rainy day in Southern California.
Yeah, well, you live in Southern California, so it never gets below 70. So, I don't really.
If it gets below 70, I start complaining.
Yeah.
But yeah, better to go to Florida in January than Florida in August. So that's nice.
Yeah,
you guys.
Definitely.
What else?
So this is something we do every year too. So every year we put this slate of seminars on. And you can learn it. It literally goes from 8 a.m. to 5:30. You can sit in the same room and listen to every single one of these, and there's like an hour break for lunch. But, you wouldn't even have to get out of your chair to get all of this information in one afternoon.
That's incredible.
One day.
And for the people that are maybe out of the country, are these also recorded for them to maybe purchase at a later date or watch at a later date if they're an IDA member?
People have asked that. We don't currently have a way to do that. Some of the people record them on their own. Okay. If they're giving the presentation, they record them. That's something I think I should bring up, because people have asked that. Like, I can't make it to Mo, but I don't want to miss this. What do I do?
What if you did a Facebook
if
Live?
We could find a way to properly... Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because then you would
Live's
just have,
actually a great idea.
Then you would just... It wouldn't take much, just to... Because you obviously don't want to go to, I don't know, camera crew and mics, and I always think about what's the simplest, like I could just literally hit start, and start going.
It wouldn't be the best quality, but you could listen and see, and and you could be there. The person in the front row could sit there and record that, and you could get a lot of this information. And this is only part of what's going on. Mobile Tech also offers detailing ones. Normally Rennie has one. I know that Mike Phillips has a couple. Mike Phillips has one for us. We couldn't get him into this slate, so he's going one on Friday called Becoming the Expert in Your Hometown. Yep. It's an hour Mike Phillips presentation on how to be that guy in your area, that when people have questions or serious detailing concerns, they're the ones you call. So that's another education seminar that's going on Friday.
Man, I'm going to make a serious effort to get there, because and for guys because I just that Mike Phillips thing alone, that is a huge thing that guys need to take advantage of. I just saw a guy posting in a Facebook group yesterday. He's like, I've put out 200 business cards on cars and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I didn't get one call. And it's like, dude, because you're not targeting the right people. You're not going where the people are, and I think becoming that expert in your hyper local area is like the key. And it's also not too difficult from an internet standpoint if you're going hyper local to become that expert, that go-to guy to populate whenever people search. You just want to be there when people think about detailing in your local area.
And I found that, these guys with these really nice cars who will spend the money on high-end detailing, they all seem to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're all part of car clubs and little groups and stuff like that. And they all, you get in good with, like, the Tesla owners group, and next thing you know, you have a Tesla at your shop every single day looking for paint corrections and coatings.
Yep.
you get in, you become the expert, and you're their go-to guy.
Yep, love that. What else?
So, as we move on to Friday, Friday morning we're doing CD in a day. So for anyone who is coming to Mobile Tech that isn't already an IDA certified detailer, this is a chance to sit down and take the whole class and all of the tests all in one like 3-hour block, 4-hour block. You get all of it out of the way. You get the educational, and then you also get to take the test as part of it. Our IDA program for the CDs has really grown as times go on. So we've added a lot of certified detailers. So currently we have 377 regular certified detailers in the country.
And what is the benefit sorry to interrupt you, but what is the benefit for a detailer, and this may be a stupid question, but it's actually one that I get a lot from guys looking at the IDA, is that what is the benefit to a detailer becoming a certified detailer through the IDA?
Well, I think so let's break this down into two parts. If you're a new detailer, it's easier because this gives you a base knowledge of what you should know. What is the standard for detailing in our industry? You know, somebody sort of had to come along and make a standard. We've tried to make this it. So when I hire a new detailer, they go through my training program and we make them take this test. So all of my guys this past year, we had a CD in a day. We all sat down. Everyone took these tests. So it gives me a baseline to know what my employees know. This is what I want my standard to be for detailing. Like, you know, you need to know this stuff. It's harder than you think it would be. You know, there's some safety questions in there. There's some paint questions in there that I've even seen good detailers get caught up on, you know,
right.
Chemical questions about pHs and how, you know, and how chemistry works together. You know, it's not as easy as people think it is.
Yeah. I think I like that idea too of it being a baseline for even employees, you know, for people that are looking to hire people or expand their business for their employees to become certified detailers. You know, just so to limit the risk and liability of that new employee that you're going to bring on. I think that's a great idea too.
Yeah, there's questions on there like, you know, about using solvent on plexiglass. If you don't know and you put a solvent on like a gauge cluster, you're going to melt it. So if that question, which is on that test, if they know the answer to that,
right.
and I've drilled it into that, they've passed the test, they've answered the question, I know they're never going to do that because they know the consequences of it.
Yep, mitigating
risk. But that's
Love
a minor thing that you may not have ever explained because it's such a small probability of happening. But it's covered. We cover it.
Right.
So, you know, it's a good thing for it's a really good thing for new detailers and employees. You know, it just lets you know, especially as an employer, which is my case, where my guys stand. You know, when they're done the training program, my training program and my training guide is set up so if you learn everything I teach you, you should be able to get 100% on that test. Everything that's on the test is in my training program.
Wow.
So, you know, if you pass that test, I know you've learned everything.
Awesome.
And then for more advanced detailers, you know, guys like me and you have been doing it a long time. You're like, what's the value in me taking a test when I know I can pass that test? Well, think of it like I always tell people like a learner's permit for a car. Yes, you can probably drive a car, but if you want to take your real driver's test or you want to get your CDL, you have to start at the learner's permit. You know, you can't skip ahead to your CDL or your motorcycle license without taking step one. This is step one. So as we advance, we have a level 2 test, which I'll cover later because we're doing part of that. And we're building master level tests too. So like anything, you have to start at the bottom. And as the IDA grows and we build more lobbying power and consumer awareness, we're trying to make it so that the consumer understands the certified detailer level. So that may separate you from a bucket brigade guy, who just is out there with his truck and some Dawn and a sponge.
Right.
Like where is our, this is kind of where we're drawing the line and saying, for professionals, you should know this information. And, as you move forward in your detailing career and you want to take some of these more advanced tests, you have to start at the CD. So, yes, it may be below some people who've been detailing for many years, but it's a way to create that standard where, true professionals all can take and pass this test. Sort of like ASC for mechanics.
Yep.
Most qualified mechanics pass the ASC test. And a lot of them probably didn't need to actually take the test to know that information, but you get to put it on your wall and people will ask about it and you'll get to explain how you've taken certifications to stay on top of what's new in the industry and to better yourself as a detailer.
Yeah, I love that aspect of it too, that you're proving to your customers that you've taken the time to invest in yourself to become a better detailer for them. I love that.
Yeah, and like I said, most professional detailers should be able to pass that test.
Yeah, sure.
Going on from that, were you going to ask something?
Nope, I was just going to say, what else? What else is going on?
So going on from that, on Saturday, we're doing SV testing, which is the skills validated testing, which is the level 2 test. So you actually have to get in front of someone like Mike Phillips or Jason Rose and apply this book knowledge to detailing. There's no fibbing it anymore at that point. You're standing in front of someone who definitely knows more about detailing than you do, and you have to qualify your answers and show them you know how to use a buffer. You know what pads and product combinations go together. You understand the difference between a tannin stain and a protein stain and an oil-based stain. You know how to remove them. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is practical knowledge that is significantly more difficult because you have to know it. It's not just book knowledge. Yes, I can pass a test. The skills validated test shows you can actually take the knowledge that you have in your head and apply it to a detailing project.
There's no cheating when it comes to having a machine actually in your hand.
No, and there's 4 parts of that. There's prep, which covers, all your basic prep, basic washing, vacuuming, that sort of stuff. There's interior details, which are going to cover stains, all your different types of materials, plastics, vinyls, leathers, cloth in a vehicle. There's paint, which will cover different paint types, products, pads, buffers, and then finishing, which is like trim and metals and glass and all those sort of things. So there's 4 different stations with 4 different proctors, and you have to pass all 4 of them to be considered skills validated.
Nice. Love it. That sounds incredible too.
Yeah. So, So, skills validated has jumped too. So we currently have 7 people in the country that are skills validated.
Wow.
And that's a fairly new thing. We've probably been really pushing that for a year and a half. So, it's a little more difficult because you can't take it online like you can the certified detailer test. You actually have to be in front of a proctor. So you either have to travel to one or we do it at the trade shows where we have proctors there to give this test.
Are there proctors all across the country currently? Or not really?
There are.
Okay.
Yeah. So the people who can give the test, we call them registered trainers. They're the proctors for the test.
Got it.
There's 22 of them scattered about the country.
Okay.
So there's one nearby.
Sure. Okay. Cool. I'm just thinking if people can't get to mobile tech or they're hearing this way later and they are still interested in becoming skills validated and all that. I want to try and cover that. Good.
Yeah. A lot of a lot of the training programs offer this now. So we're getting it put into training programs like at ArtX or at AutoGeek or at Rupus. You know, like when they're doing these training programs, because they have a proctor working there, they can also include the CD testing and the SV testing as part of that 3 or 4 day training. I know AutoGeek just did one where they did the 3-day training, and then at the end, you could take your CD and SV test, and a bunch of people did it.
Cool.
So,
That's
you know,
awesome.
as we're growing, we're getting into these training programs to kind of, like I said, set the standard for this is what you should know to be a professional detailer.
Love it.
Yeah. So there's just 2 more things that we do that are kind of big.
This stuff's huge, not kind of big. This stuff's huge. I'm into it. This is huge.
Yeah. So we do a panel discussion. Last year we did a roundtable. We're going to kind of change it up this year, but we're doing a panel discussion in a big room where everybody can kind of give their thoughts and go back and forth with industry leaders. We have people on this panel like Rennie Doyle and Brian Guy and Jason Rose, you know, the big names that are helping out with this. So we're going to have different topics. The first one is branding. We have customer retention and CRMs, online and social media, different profit centers, expanding your business and how to grow, efficiency in the detailing processes, safety and compliance, which I think gets overlooked a lot.
Yep.
You know, that people, you know, 90% of people in this industry would be in a lot of trouble if OSHA walked through their door. So, you know, that is, you know, that's something that you should at least know about. And then also lighting, you know, proper lighting for detailing. So we're going to have a 2-hour panel discussion just about all of these topics and kind of be able to ask questions and throw ideas back and forth with industry leaders in these areas about, you know, what they do and how to really get the most out of each of those topics.
Yep. I think for guys that are trying to be legit, and whether you're just starting out, and I think it's imperative if you're just starting out that if you want to start out on the right foot, the right track, and set yourself up for success, this is a no-brainer. And if you've been detailing forever, you've probably picked up some really bad habits along the way, and it'd be good to like circle back and get the core basics down again and make sure you're operating legitimately and safely for everyone involved, you know, and become all these things and get just, even if you think you know it all, which I think is a dangerous place to be anyway. But, you know, just to circle back around and just do a refresher course, I think is huge. Just everything you're talking about, you're just nailing it. Yeah, you know, and the people who, you know, you see your keyboard detailers, they're like, oh, you know, I know everything about detailing. If you ask the top people in any industry if they know everything about their industry, they will tell you absolutely not. You know, you could never stop learning. Exactly.
You know, things change. Chemicals change. Products change. Look at coatings.
Yep.
You know, the way coatings have really taken over in the past few years. You know, new buffers, you know, long throw buffers, you know, those sort of things that if you're stuck in your way and you think you know everything and you're not open to new ideas, you'll get left behind quickly.
Yep. The second you stop learning, you die. I know that's harsh, but that's what I think.
And then on Saturday is our actually it's on Friday is our annual business meeting. This is also our awards ceremony. So I don't know if you've seen the emails where we have different awards that we present every year. We have Detailer of the Year, Mobile Detailer of the Year, Shop of the Year, Supplier of the Year, a Leadership Award, and an Outstanding Service Award. All of these, well, most of them, one of them can't be voted on by the membership. It's just given. But, you know, Detailer of the Year and Mobile and Shop and Supplier, these are all up for vote by the membership. So if you guys are currently a member, you actually don't even have to be a member to vote. You can go and vote, check out the nominees and vote for the person you think is most deserving. And we give them an award and a presentation at Mobile Tech every year.
Do you have to be an IDA member to win, though?
No.
Okay.
For one of them, yes. But for the rest of them, no.
Okay.
So there's people who are nominated who are not current IDA members. But to me, we'd really be limiting ourselves. To say that someone's not deserving of Mobile Detailer of the Year because they're not a member of the IDA, I think we're kind of shorting the detailing industry. We want to, as the IDA, we want to recognize these people and possibly bring them into the fold. They may not have even known about us.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they shouldn't be awarded for innovations or for doing something for outstanding growth or something like that. There's many reasons why these people get nominated.
Fair enough. I agree.
Yep. And then during that meeting, we also just kind of go over what's new in the detailing industry, where the IDA would like to move forward, and the programs we're putting on for the upcoming year, and things of that nature.
Awesome.
It's just our meeting. This is the IDA meeting. We invite all the detailers at Mobile Tech, even non-members. Everyone can come and just kind of learn what the IDA is about, what we're doing for you as a detailer. How are we working as a trade organization to make your life as a detailer better?
And that's what I would encourage people also. If they're, I think what hinders people from joining the IDA right now is that they just don't have enough knowledge about what the IDA all the benefits of being in the IDA. So, even if you're not a member and you happen to be going to Mobile Tech, check it out. Just ask questions. Why not? Keep learning. Don't shortchange yourself. Yeah, and then you can find out about the webinars that we do every month. The programs that we offer around the country at different trade shows and things like that. We do a lot. Our relationship with AutoGeek is grown significantly. So this upcoming year, we're going to have a lot more of a presence at Detail Fest. So as we sort of get more involved in the detailing industry, and trade organizations are powerful. Look at an organization like the NRA. Yep. That's a trade organization. They're pretty much the same thing as what we do. They're obviously significantly more powerful than us and have a lot more money, but that's the power of a trade organization. It's all people of in an industry speaking with one voice. Right. To the government, to the state, to be able to lobby for detailing as a whole. I know, and this may be something that is affecting you. I know the bond problem that California detailers are having. The IDA is trying to get involved in that and lobby some of the local the local government to find out why detailers need to be included in car wash bonds. Yep. That we need to be separated from a tunnel car wash that employs 100 people. That's not the same as a boutique detail shop that has 2 or 3 people and does one car a day or one car every 2 days. Right. They're not the same thing. But the government, the California state, they don't care. Yeah, they just lumped everything together. Exactly. Yeah, so that's something that people came to the IDA with this problem, and now the IDA is getting involved. That's the power of a trade organization. That's awesome. That governments will listen to trade organizations. They won't listen to Jimbo when he calls. Yeah, when we had that, when there was like a little SoCal meet and greet for the IDA, and people were like, we should take a bus up there and and it's like, guys, that's not going to work. They don't give a crap about us. As individuals, at least, I should say, but an organization back, that's a different story. Yeah, we may not be to that point yet, but the more we grow and the more people that see the value in it, even if you're a big detailer and
you just think of it as a donation to help this organization. You donate $100 a year to the IDA to help them grow and to become this more powerful organization. You can see the value in that.
100%. Yeah, that's incredible. So it was that all the events lined? Did we make it to Sunday or no? Or is it a...
Yeah. So Sunday, yep. Because Friday and Saturday, the actual show's going on. So,
Got it.
People will be visiting us at our booth and things like that. There's other things, little things going on, but those are what I gave you was a rundown of the IDA, marquee events.
Yep. I think that it's and we didn't even touch on the show itself. We just talked on all these exterior things. So it's it's incredible. I think, you got me excited to go, and I wasn't even planning on going or being excited about going. And I'm like, man, I gotta go.
I enjoy the show. You can actually sit down and have lunch with people that you've only read their book or seen on the internet or heard their name.
Right.
It's small enough venue that there is, less than 100 detailers who all kind of stick together.
Yeah.
And you go to these events and you can walk up to the front after Rennie Doyle's presentation and shake his hand and ask him direct questions. And, you get face-to-face time with people that you don't normally get it with.
Yes,
that's
it's
why
not so overwhelming.
Like it. It's a great networking event.
Yes, and great point. And I actually can really appreciate the fact that it's at Mobile Tech and not SEMA, because SEMA is just so overwhelming. But that is, I think, this world, as it gets bigger, it gets smaller at the same time. And I think who you know and who you network with and who your connections are is everything. So for guys, again, whether you're just breaking into the industry or you've been in it for a long time, creating this network of detailers, not because they're necessarily going to pay your bills, but just people, like you said, hey, if you shake hands with Rennie after he gives his talk and you guys really hit it off and connect, you may become friends with him and have a direct line of communication, whereas before you would have just been another person reaching out to him on the internet. So getting there, face-to-face contact, shaking hands, that's networking, putting your name out there, putting a face to the name is huge. If people want to join the IDA or maybe hop on one of these webinars, because these webinars are open to that you just briefly touched on every month, they're open to non-IDA members if they pay a small fee, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. They're free for IDA members, and I think they're $20.
$20. That's
I
what I
don't
was
know.
going to say.
I actually don't know that off the top of my head because I'm a member and I don't have to pay it.
Yeah, me too, but I think you're right.
But I think it's in that vicinity. But if you think about it, let's say you look at the list of webinars coming up for the year, and there's 5 of them you want to see. That's your membership right there.
Yep,
that's
exactly.
That not only do you get all the other webinars included, but you get the other benefits. You get the newsletters and the updates and that sort of stuff.
Love it. So how can people join the IDA or at least get more information about the IDA?
Like I mentioned before, you can go to the website. It's www.the-ida.com, and that's got all the membership benefits, all of, pretty much everything that we are about is on that website. And there's also ways to sign up there. You can also take your CD tests online through that website too.
Got it. Awesome, man. Well, look, I said we'll probably go 20 minutes. We've gone 46 minutes.
Yeah.
I love it. So, Rob, thanks again for coming on the show and sharing all that. Was there any last things that you wanted to add before we end it?
No, I think we've covered pretty much a lot of what the IDA is about and the things that we do, and it's just important for all of us as an industry. I've seen us grow over the past few years and consumers are starting to take us more seriously now, that we're not just car washers anymore. I feel like the detailing industry has really started to set itself apart from car washing and tunnel washes and stuff like that, and they're seeing the benefit in paying the extra money.
Right.
So, as that continues to grow, one of the focuses of the IDA is consumer awareness. Mm-hmm. Why should you use a detailer and not a car washer?
Right.
Those sort of things, those sort of things are important to the IDA.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode with Rob and myself. As always, everything, all the show notes and resources and additional blog posts are over at autodetailingpodcast.com. You can check the resources tab for all the products that I recommend. And that is it for this week, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Next week, we're going to be talking with Kyle Clark and Jason Cox of the Scan Grip lights. So all those Scan Grip, the new color matching lights that you've been seeing, we get pretty technical and talk about that in next week's episode. So maybe I'll see you at Mobile Tech, but I will definitely hear you, or you will definitely hear me next week on episode 264. See you guys then.